Hi, girlies. Welcome to Book Please Podcast. It's Elina here.
Hi guys, it's Amanda.
I was just telling my girlie how pretty she looks, and she did not believe me. And I was like, well, Amanda, I wouldn't be friends with you if you weren't pretty.
She doesn't mean that. And I only don't feel pretty because I don't have my eyelashes on.
No, you look
It's like
stunning. The hair is everything. The titty shirt, the
it's
glowing
giving me naked
skin.
mole rat
No,
vibes.
literally never. Pretty queen, love it, love you inside and out. And you know what's funny? We've been obsessed with a show that's like quite literally the opposite. Love is Blind. If you're not watching it, are you living under a rock?
Yes, it's all over social media. If you're not watching it, you're at least seeing it.
Literally, you must go watch it now on Netflix. It is quality television. And if you don't know the premise, I'll give you a quick breakdown. It's like you're dating people in it's what is called pods. There's a wall between you, so you never see the person. And the point is like you're forming connections without ever having seen the person. And then you guys can couple up and decide to get engaged before ever meeting physically in person based only off of personalities. And then you can go through life. You do a little honeymoon and go through the experiment and see like you're trying to answer like, is love truly blind? And that can get messy because, you know, once you see the person, you may,
And we're a very, very shallow country.
honestly. Well, before we even get into the show, what do you think about that? Like, do you think Love is Blind?
I feel like you can like someone's personality. Like I think personality is most important, and you can like grow to like someone physically, but I feel like physical attraction is super important too. But you can find someone physically attractive after knowing like their personality. So I think Love is Blind.
I think that's so true that when you get to know somebody, you can grow more interested in them. I think it's like a chemistry thing. I I definitely think the physical attraction is so important. Like I always feel like if I'm dating you, like I want to feel like I just want to like rip your clothes off, or I'm
Mhm.
always like just touchy or some
Yeah.
kind of
You
like
don't
a
touch me 24/7.
yes, like you need that pull to that person, whatever it
Hmm.
is. And I think there have been times where like one of the first people I ever like was very into and really dated like in high school is not someone typically that I'm like this is my type.
Mm.
But there was like there's that like chemistry, that's something there, the little like the swag, there's something that can like make you so much more into the person. So in that sense I believe it, but just like off the bat like seeing somebody after like just conversations, I'm sure that's like a weird experience, and having to like match the voice with the face, and even I think mannerisms change the person too. So like your little quirks are either like icky or
Hmm.
attractive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. Did you ever watch the season that I don't remember the wife's name, but it was Doug? He was the tall, skinny guy, and he met this girl. I think she's like a travel nurse, and he like was in sales, and she was very beautiful, like very beautiful girl. And then when she saw him, she was like not attracted to him. And when you watch the show back, you're like, oh my God, like she's being such a bitch about it. But to this day, they're married, have kids. So it kind of shows you that, she fell in love with his personality and she had to grow to be physically attracted to him. So I've seen
Yeah.
it on the show.
Yeah, I've seen all of the seasons, and some of them are very unfortunate where like you can tell immediately the change up and it's so uncomfortable for the other
Wait,
person.
I'm sorry, that wasn't Love is Blind. That was Married at First Sight.
Oh,
Sorry.
shoot.
Which is kind of similar.
No, that is the same. That is the same premise. That's why I was like trying to remember which one Doug
Yeah,
was.
no, I'm sorry, it was the wrong show. I'm like,
No,
wait,
but
she.
you're right. Married at First Sight is like you meet at the altar and then you go through
Mhm,
life with these people that are supposed to be a match for
mhm,
you. But yeah, I mean when I've seen in Love is Blind, like after the reveals, like you can see who's like either really into it or is just like not attracted to the person.
mhm,
And the way that some people really change is tough to watch. It's
mhm.
definitely so painful to watch. And one of the major things that has gone viral from this season that was just released on Valentine's Day, so as you're going through the pods on your dates, you kind of like gravitate towards certain people. You can stop taking dates with others and narrow it down. So there's a few people left that were continuing to date each other. And Jessica and Chelsea, two of the cast members, were both dating Jimmy towards the end. And Chelsea also was dating Trevor. So Chelsea's dating Trevor and Jimmy is dating Chelsea and Jessica. Now, towards the end, Chelsea says to Jimmy that she's like asking, like poking, and she's like, "Oh, has anyone ever said you look like somebody?" And he doesn't really give an answer, but asked her. And she's like, "Oh, I've gotten Megan Fox a few times. I don't know. Like, it has to just be like the eyes and the dark hair. Like, that's probably the only thing. Like, I don't know. Like, she just was
He
brushing it
was
off."
sold.
That's okay. That's what I want to say about it. I believe that she weaponized it at the end when she thought that she could lose Jimmy, even though she had a whole other guy she was dating. And she threw that in there to
Which beautiful
solidify it.
man.
She threw that in there to solidify it, is how I feel about it. And that defeats the whole purpose. And to be honest, I thought that Jimmy was jiving a lot better with Jessica. I would have never thought that spoiler alert, Jimmy would have picked Chelsea until Chelsea said that. And then I thought Chelsea was jiving better with Trevor.
Well, honestly, I think Trevor and Jessica both dodged bullets, honestly.
Totally. Okay, first of all, totally. But Chelsea and Trevor were great. And even like down to the part where she's like, kind of like a mullet. Like, do you have a mullet? Like, I feel like you have a mullet. And that was so funny and strange. And Trevor does. Like, they were really getting there. And Trevor was all about her. And I think Trevor would have done so well with Chelsea. Like, I think he would have loved her.
Yeah. I think Chelsea should not have been put on the show, period. I think she needs to love herself before she could love anyone else. I think she's very, I'm not going to say insecure, but she just, even watching it, I felt like she needed a lot of validation. Like, was
Yeah.
I what you expected? I need someone to tell me I'm pretty all the time. I need someone to be attractive. So I feel like she was just, her demeanor was a little much where I was just like, I
She's
felt for her.
definitely insecure. But all I have to say about this is if you're going to tell a man who has never seen you before that you look like Megan Fox, you are 10 out of 10 going to set yourself up to fail. Why on earth who is going to say to a man, I look like Megan Fox, who has no idea what you look like? And I'm not saying Chelsea's not beautiful in her own right.
She's very beautiful,
but
very beautiful.
girl, what are you doing telling this man that you look maybe a little more like Adele?
Did
You
you see
look a
that?
little bit like Natalie Nunn. You look a little like
No,
Molly
you did not say
Ringwald.
Natalie. Okay, girl.
You don't look like
Natalie's gonna
Megan
come for you for
Fox.
saying that.
I saw the chinny chin chin, okay? And that's okay, girl. I got issues too. I got issues. Like I'm not saying I'm perfect. And I would never tell anybody that I look like Megan Fox.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah, that's not who I would. I would
He
try and like down it a little bit. I don't know.
he lit up when he was like, "You look like Megan Fox." Poor guy almost had a stroke. He was
Did you see the episode name? The episode name was "She Lied to Me."
Yes, because he even said it later in the confessional. He's like, she told me that she looked like Megan Fox. And I think that's why she kept seeking the validation because he's having this odd reaction. She's like, did you expect this? Did you expect this? And he's like, well, you said something different. And he's not saying it directly, but he kept saying, well, you said something. Mind you, Jessica is a whole ass Megan Fox on the other side of the screen.
Yeah, Jessica definitely. Yeah.
And what you didn't like her response to him at the end.
Well,
When
I'm
she
all
was
about
like,
women
when you
empowerment,
see me, you will choke.
which is true. I mean, he will 100%.
Yes.
But I honestly like didn't ship them. Like I just like even though they were vibing great, like I was still like, I don't know, maybe I just don't like Jimmy. I think it's a Jimmy thing. I feel like the more I kept watching Jimmy and how the comments he makes, he gives me pig vibes. Like I was just like, the audacity of this man. You know, like you would think he looks like the way he acts, I would think he'd look like a Tom Brady or something when
Yeah.
he, you know, so I was just like,
Yeah.
dial it back, brother, dial it back.
I think the thing was like he was acting like he had kind of like reservations about Jessica having a daughter.
Hmm.
Now, I
Which is
do,
one thing. Hmm.
yes, and I do fully believe that, and Jessica deserves someone to be like, no problem.
Exactly.
But I do fully believe if he saw her, he would not have a problem with the kid. But I will say this,
That's why she dodged a bullet.
she played it right. Yes, she played
Hmm.
it right the whole time. She never said anything about what she looked like. She was genuinely herself.
Hmm.
And I think that was great.
Hmm.
So at the end, when you know you're not being picked and you're going to say, you know what, you're going to regret this, I was like, go girl, like let them know because it's done at this point. It's
Yeah.
done, like, and then Trevor's left with nobody. Chelsea should have gone to Trevor and then Jessica could have gone with Jimmy, but yes, dodged a
Yeah,
bullet.
yeah.
She
I think they
deserves a more
deserve better.
powerful man.
I think they both are deserving of love, and they just didn't find it there. I also can we talk about Matt? Matt had me. Matt
What
was
on
like
earth was this man?
when
Matthew.
he was
Erica
asking
Matthew.
when
Can
he
we?
had a
Can
whole
we?
list of
You got to give a
questions.
breakdown. You got to explain
Okay,
Matthew first.
okay. So there was this one guy, right? And he was an older guy too. I think he was like in his like late 30s too, like a
Yes,
grown ass man from like a small town, but whatever, doesn't excuse. Like I thought he was good looking, and he came in with like a list of questions. He's like, pick a number 1 through 15, and then
that
I'll
fucking
ask you a
same
question.
line to every girl.
Yeah, and then one person asked, he asked the person a question, the person asked him the question back, and he was like, yeah, I wasn't ready for that. So then like left.
Yeah, this homeboy was like, pick a question 1 through 15, and she answers, goes, "How about you?" And he literally goes, "I thought I was going to be asking the questions. I didn't expect to have to answer them too." You're
Yeah,
dating.
yes. And then my favorite, I don't remember what girl it was,
He
but he
did
asked the
it a
girl
few
a
times.
few times. There was one girl, she was rambling, like she was answering his question, but like she kept talking, and he was just like, okay, kept talking, and then he just got up and like left, and then she's like, hello.
That was some shit. And he kept leaving. I was shocked that he like started forming connections. It
I was
didn't make
dead.
any sense to me. But I will say this. He
Hmm.
has spoken out
Hmm.
about how he was portrayed. And I'll read his little
Oh,
statement.
this is good.
He
Yeah, let me know.
posted this on a comment. And he said, Key, ele- key element of my story that was never disclosed is that I live an alcohol free lifestyle and did the experiment sober. It was a key factor in why I had so much difficulty connecting with women in the beginning. There was also many misrepresentations and falsehoods created in my opinion to smear my character. I look forward to telling my side of the story with the full truth at the appropriate time.
Okay, but I get that. But like, why do you? I feel like what he did was rude. Walking out on someone is rude.
Yeah.
So that sober or not, that's just no offense. How do you come back from that? That's
And
different.
and
That's
for those of you who don't know, like everyone is sitting in there guzzling wine, like in the dates every date.
hmm. Hmm.
And he does, there are parts of this that make sense because when the guys are always cheersing and buddying up and drinking, he's
Hmm.
always on the side on the corner. But even
Hmm.
my friend Jackie, who's sober, she's like, I would have taken a water cup and cheers with
It's just
them and
a
tell,
vibe.
you know,
Yeah, you
but
can tell
some people
personality.
maybe aren't comfortable yet with their sobriety. This is a high stakes, like nervous
Okay. Hmm.
situation.
Hmm.
Yeah, like it makes me feel a little more careful when making judgments about him,
Hmm.
but it doesn't excuse like what you said. You're just straight up like walking out and you're not even going to answer one question. That's kind of
Yeah,
odd.
I would have just been like, "Hey, like, I'm sorry, but you're talking a bit too much for me. This isn't working out. We're not compatible." And then walked, like
Yeah.
something.
I think he also had such a fixation on being cognizant of being on television because
Mm,
towards the end, he kept making comments like America's watching and
mm,
America's going to see this and I'm like, maybe that's like what was in his head so much.
hmm.
I'm
He was
not
so
really
funny.
sure. The
Ugh.
other thing that I did want to talk about with going back to Jessica is the conversation around having a kid. She
Hmm.
did say that she was going to wait to say that she had a daughter, a 10-year-old named Autumn, until she was like a little more comfortable opening up like with people. She didn't want to lead with it. And
Hmm.
I think she felt like maybe people would just judge her too quickly and like without getting to know her first and then wanted to introduce it later. How do you feel about that? Do you think that like a man should tell you up front, like, I have a child, you should know this, or like a couple dates in when you're comfortable, talk about it?
I think your child is the most important thing in your life. I think wait, like if I told someone off the bat that I had a kid and they had an issue with it, that's not my person. Like I
Yeah.
feel like waiting, it's kind of not saying it's deceiving. I understand wanting someone to like you for you before, but liking you for you is understanding you're a mother. So
Yeah.
I don't agree with it. I've encountered it. I mean, when I was single and dating, people don't disclose on their dating apps that they have kids. And
Yeah.
I find that a little dishonest. I'm like, because, on dating
They're
apps,
like
they have the
trapping
option.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no children. You can leave it blank. If you leave it blank, that's different. But like, if we've been talking for a while and you don't mention your kid once, I don't want to assume, but I'm ready. Like, are you a good dad? Are you absent? Are you in the kids' life? Like, I have so many
Yeah.
questions because you never brought it up. So I think being honest from the beginning is like the way to lead. But I've never been in the predicament. I don't know if she's been through this so much that it just affected her. Um, but I personally, I would probably disclose it because I'd be super proud, super happy. Not that she's not proud, but like I would. This is me. Take me as I am.
Yeah. And I think it was more of just like just give me a chance first. I kind of understand both
Mm-hmm.
sides.
Yeah, same.
I think I would lead with it as well, and I would like somebody to lead with it as well. But I
Mm-hmm.
also understand within a reasonable time frame. Like let's say
Yes.
you're on your second or third date. I think by the
Mm-hmm.
third date, you need to like that is like the absolute farthest I think it should go.
Yeah.
And I get
I
like if
think it
you're
depends on the situation too.
yeah,
Like, is the child's father in their life? Like, or are you looking for a father for this kid?
yeah,
There's many factors, but I kind of agree. Like, I don't knock her for wanting to tell it when she was ready.
yeah,
At the end of the day, maybe it's just for her. Maybe her daughter does have the father, like, and her daughter's older. So she's already, went through all, like, she's not a kid.
yeah. Exactly. It's not like you're dealing with a baby here.
Exactly.
I
Hmm.
was like, 'cause I was kind of annoyed though with Jimmy's reaction. Like he was so devastated. Like he was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is throws such a wrench in everything." I was like, "Oh my God,
Hmm.
grow up! Like just
Yeah.
grow
Yeah.
up!" Like he's not that young either. I don't know how old he is, but he ain't that
You
young.
already know how I feel about Jimmy. I'm
He,
just like, he's a
yes,
whole bag of nothing.
I know, and I just die watching this, knowing like what he fumbled, and it's his karma, and that's fine. It's the way that it's
100%. Hmm.
supposed to be.
Jessica, girl, you'll find your match. You'll find your match.
Yes, girl. She will have no problem. What else are
No
you watching?
problem. So what's okay? So American Idol came out with a new season. I don't know about you, but I'm like a crybaby. I'm a
Oh,
crybaby. It could be
girl,
fake.
I
It
cry
could
at
be real.
anything.
I've American Idol. Every time they tell the stories, I'm just like sobbing, and I'm like, I already did my makeup for this podcast
Girl, I
recording,
can't
and I'm
even scroll
sobbing.
on TikTok without crying. I
Oh, I'm
can't.
such a
Like,
sucker.
I'm a baby. I am such a child. I'll hear a
Ugh.
song,
Mm.
something will just touch me, and I'll just be like, I
Mm,
can't.
mm, mm, mm. And it's funny. We're gonna start calling Danny Car Guy because he's my car guy boyfriend.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So Car Guy, right? He's always like, "Why are
Right,
you
but you're
crying?
not
It's
supposed
not
to
that
say his
serious."
name is Danny if you're gonna call him Car Guy on the
I
podcast.
want people to go back and watch our episodes to learn that Car Guy's Danny.
Okay,
See what I'm
yeah.
doing there? I'm planting a seed.
You're okay. You're supposed to reveal his name later, okay?
Oh, okay. Danny Car Guy Danny. But he's like looks over and he's like, "Are you
Ruined it.
really crying?" He's like, "All these American, no offense, but all these American Idol stories are kind of the same, like people come." I'm like, "I know, but like," and then I hear their voice and I'm like,
I can't believe you're still watching American Idol.
it's so good. And you know what it is? I feel like the last few years, a lot of country singers have won. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, yes, I'm knowing like what's new with the country music. But this season's just been, I'm bawling, bawling, bawling. One girl
Oh
was like
my gosh.
adopted, and
I
then she
don't even
found out
know
her
who the
mom was a singer.
judges are
Yes, you
anymore.
do. Katy Perry. What's that country? Blake Shelton? No, no,
No, girl.
no.
Come
What's his
on.
name? What's that country singer?
Luke Bryan?
Luke Bryan. Yes, I was close. Something to be Luke
That's
Bryan, and then, and then
Who's watching, me or
and
you?
then what's her Sophia's
Jonah?
dad's name? Sophia's dad. Sophia.
Lionel Richie?
There we go. The Richie. Yep. That dude. So it's all three of them.
Pop culture told by Amanda.
I'm like, nah. I'm so bad when like you guys will see when we get into the book. I'm
Dude,
not good with
Sophia's
names.
dad, let's go.
Well, she was recently like married. I was like like she's fresh in my mind before
Yeah, yeah,
even though I
yeah.
just saw on TV. But but yeah, no, this season's so good, and I'm just such a crybaby. Love it. And then I'll
Yes.
ask you back. Don't worry. But
Oh,
What Would
I
You Do
was
came
just
out with the new
dying.
season. I love. You've heard of What Will You Do, right?
No.
What? It's on ABC. And
Okay.
this guy, oof, God, I'm so bad with names. You guys are gonna be like, really? Um,
Girl.
okay, there's this main like this talk host
Are we
guy,
gonna
right?
play like charades and I'm gonna guess the celebrity? Like who
Okay, wait,
is
let me
it?
look it up. What would
No.
you do? Okay, I don't know what other
So
hints to
what's the
give you.
premise? No, I'm just kidding. Like what's the
Uh,
premise of the show?
okay, so and I'm so jealous because it's usually always filmed in Jersey. Like Jersey's the majority of where they film it. And they have actors. So an
Okay.
example could be they're at a diner. Oh, I could do the one that I watched
Oh,
today.
is
They're at
it
a
like in
diner.
Practical Jokers?
Kind of sort of, yes, to see how people react.
Oh, I
Exactly. So
love
it's
this.
like that,
Okay.
but it's like different. They do like stuff that happens on the news. So I guess Alyssa Milano, is that her name
Uh,
from Charmed? So
yes.
she got a lot of like pushback or like, bad comments for breastfeeding her kid in public. So they
Okay.
did a skit on that. They had a woman in a
Oh,
diner,
so
she was
they're
breastfeeding.
inspired by something that is real.
Exactly.
I see.
Exactly.
Okay.
So she was breastfeeding, and another actor was like, "Can you not? I'm trying to eat. Can you do that in private and see how people listening would react?" So Jersey people are like strong, so they're like,
They're
"Leave
like,
her
you leave
alone.
the mom
Sit
alone.
somewhere. Yeah, sit somewhere else." So and then they come out with the camera and they're like, "Oh, what made you like say something?" And I like cry because some of them are just like so sad, like a veteran that had an injury and people being mean
They
to
need
him.
to give these people money.
Oh, girl, if I was on this, they wouldn't be able to air me. I would lose it. I would lose it. If someone's rude to someone, I would just like lose my shit.
Yes.
But I cry. I'm just like, oh my God, people just like it touches me because I'm like, oh, our country's not as bad as I thought. There's actually nice people out there.
No, good. Oh my God, maybe I need to watch that.
Oh, you gotta watch it. It's on Hulu. So good.
I have been watching Griselda, and
Oh, I finished that.
Sofia Vergara needs to win an award for this. It's
She did amazing.
unbelievable, but we need to talk about the issue at hand here, which her family, the real Griselda's family,
Hmm.
like her sons, don't tell me what happens to
I was
her.
gonna
I'm
say which
assuming she's
ones.
dead, or I don't
I was
know,
like,
but
which
don't
kids?
say anything. Do not. No.
Do you know their
No,
okay.
don't. I don't know what happens. So her family, like, I don't know if it's like her sons or grandkids, blah, 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 whoever's still alive, they're speaking out and they're like, why did they have, first of all, Sophia looks amazing. They've done
Amazing.
her up in these prosthetics. They have her in a whole, you really believe it. And you're not like, oh, I'm watching Sophia prance around. She's so in character and she's
Hmm.
selling the role and it looks
Hmm.
amazing.
Hmm.
They are like coming out upset and they want to sue because they made her quote unquote ugly. Have you
I ain't
seen?
gonna lie, but the real one is.
Exactly. That's what I was gonna ask you. Like, have you seen the real Griselda? Like,
If I pass and I make it in life, she
what
could
did
play
you
me
see
any day.
Sophia's body Adi walking around? Like, just
Yeah.
be grateful that that's who's portraying her mom. And yes, they made
Exactly.
some features a little more close, but to be honest, like, she still looks like a little hot thing walking around that show. And the real one, I don't
Right?
know if I would say the
She's in her grave like I made it. If
same.
she's playing me, I made it.
I knew she died. I told you don't
You
tell.
don't know that? I mean, you don't know the oh, I
No.
thought you at least know the real story. She's supposed to be like
I don't know the
the
real
worst of
story.
the worst. Yeah, she's like,
Stop.
girl, now who's
Drop and
living under
roll.
a rock?
I don't know the real story of whoever Griselda is.
Really? She's
No.
literally like El
But I was
Chapo. I don't know if that's a
assuming
good.
she was dead because if her family had to speak out on her behalf, then I was like, okay, she's
Yeah,
dead. So I'm
she's
not
worse
that
than
shocked.
some of these freaking cartel guys that are like guys. Like she's hard. Like you would think as a mother, you know, it is. She didn't have any daughters. If she would have had daughters, maybe she'd be a little nicer. But I don't know. She's
I
just,
do think daughters change a woman for sure.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, or a man. I
ugh,
think too. Oof.
for sure.
Mm.
And also you can, when you're dating men and they have sisters, amazing. Because they
Amazing.
like,
They
they
usually, yeah.
know. Like they
Mm-hmm.
just know and it's different
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
for
100%.
sure.
But that's a great. You have to finish it. It's so good. I
Yeah.
mean, I knew the ending because I know her real story. But and Miami very close to home, so
Yes, I
it was
felt
nice to watch.
connected because
Yeah.
it's,
Here?
set in
Yeah.
Miami. So I was like, wow.
Yeah, there's so many good shows out right now, honestly.
I find that I really don't have that much time to watch TV, and I haven't been. But anytime there is like something like a Love is Blind comes out or a new season of something, like I'll just like binge that for the moment and then I'll be done and I'm not watching anything.
Are you watching Baddies?
No, girl, I don't watch baddies.
Girl.
I only
It's
watch it when I told you my one friend is obsessed with all of those baddies, east, west, south, north,
right now,
you
it's
know,
the reunion.
all the things.
Oh.
And she'll just like put it on and I'm forced and I sit there and she gives me a recap. She goes, this is this person, this is that one, this one fought this one
So
in the sink.
you know the most famous people. So you know Krishan.
Girl, I just know Krishan and Blueface and they're so ratchet. And
Well, Krishan's sister's on it, right? I think
no,
her
I
name
don't
is
know
Tzatziki.
this. I don't
But
think anybody that's listening knows baddies.
yes, they do. If they don't, I'm gonna post. They're gonna start listening
Nobody
now. They're gonna
knows
be like, Amanda
baddies.
watches that shit. It's great. But oh my god, Danny had to leave. Car guy had to leave the room because he was like, I can't.
That
What is
shit is
this?
ratchet to a
It's
whole
so
other
ratchet.
degree.
I know, but I love it. I'm just like,
No,
they
it's funny.
let them throw hands. I'm just like, okay, so Krishan got her sister jumped on the show because she thought she wasn't defending her while she was pregnant. What sister gets her? Bro.
Amanda.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going down a rabbit hole.
This is
Anyways,
far.
let's pivot into the book. Anyways, the point is family
you have
first.
Zeus
So
Network. God bless you. So
I don't pay for it. Thanks, cousin.
So this week we read chapters 47 to 57 in Iron Flame by Rebecca Yarros. There are some key things that we need to discuss, but let's just start where we left off, which was Kat and Violet continuing their little fight. Kat is continuing to get under Violet's skin. She even goes so far as telling Violet that Xaden is not capable of loving her.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
and then we find out her signet too. Her signet's pretty cool. She can make you like feel things, but it has to be based off actual feelings you have.
She
can
like heightens your feelings.
Yeah, enhance them. Yeah, kind
so
of.
When Violet is feeling jealous or whatever, she can help, like she can exacerbate that. Exactly. And it's making Violet crazy. And now we kind of can see why. In the previous episode, she couldn't even control her emotions in that sense. So yeah, that's it. That's a crazy
Then her and Xaden talk about it. You know, they go deep and he tries to like comfort her and she knows that Xaden loves her. So it's not, it was just Kat being a little cuckoo. But then we also learned that Kat and Xaden were actually betrothed. Is that the word? Did I say that right? Betrothed?
Yes.
Yes. So I feel like Kat doesn't really care to be with Xaden. She just wants,
she was like supposed to be like the heir to the throne, which Xaden would be the king. And it was kind of like this arranged situation to get the two sides together, and it's a whole thing. And she's like, I'm after the crown, girl. Like, I'm not after
I don't want your man.
love. He's not capable of love. So, but there is a part I want to just like mention now that we're just talking about this. It's a little later when they are being intimate, and for a moment, Violet can feel or is in Xaden's head while they're having sex. And she knows what he's thinking. And he's like, God, I love her. I need her. I this, I that. I was like, this is unreal. That like, could you just imagine like being intimate with your partner and him being so in love with you, and like you can feel and hear his thoughts as you guys are making love? Like that was insane. I was like, okay, Rebecca. And then Violet was like, I got depressed when when I was pulled out of it and out of his thoughts. Like I would be like, oh my goodness.
You can tell he's so infatuated with it. I feel even
and
when
Kat
they
knows
had
it too. She's a hater.
Yeah, literally Xaden said to her, it will never be her. Like it will always be you. And like that, literally, he said it, like nothing more to talk about. Let's move on. You know, I think she just needs to learn to trust him. I also hate that she like, yes, he keeps some secrets, but she has a lot of ups and downs with him. And I'm just like, let
she
him
needs
in.
to chill. Just be stable. Enough. Enough.
Rebecca, chill her out.
Yeah.
Rebecca, give her a Xanax.
For real. And me.
Okay, sorry. Next.
It was all good. It was all me. Thank you. Next. So Then we come to the part with Dane. There's like a big scene there where we finally get an apology and they have this deep talk. And I felt really good about it because
Me
we
too.
we really learn like where Dane was coming from. And I think he was just like, it's kind of what you've been alluding to this whole time. Like he didn't know any better. His father is, has an important role and he's
Hmm.
kind of just been doing as he's told. And now that he's informed, he can make informed decisions and
Hmm.
he's chosen right by our standards.
Yep.
So I do forgive him. And I think he is like a good pillar in her life.
Hmm.
They're working through some of the books and he noticed that because in the last section of chapters we read, Violet was trying to ward and she's sitting here translating this journal from one of the first six. And, she's trying to figure it out and she gets the blood of the first six, which is what she thought she needed, and it didn't work.
Hmm.
So now Dayton is like, all right, let's go through this. And he points something out to her that she's mistranslated.
Yep.
And so they're working through the translations together. And I kind of love this dynamic that's forming.
I liked my favorite that I took out of that was when Dane was like, "Are you in love with him?" And she was like, "Yes." And then he was like, "Well, if you trust him, like I won't question him ever again. Like if you trust him, I trust him." So that part was very key to me because it was like, okay, they're in love. He knows they'll never be a thing, and he's on the right side. And if Violet trusts Aiden, then he has to. So I like that chapter's closed with the hate. Hmm.
That was such a beautiful thing. Like, what a sentiment to say to somebody, you know what? I trust you and your judgment so much. Like, if this is the person that you love, like,
Hmm.
I respect them too.
Yep. And I forgave him after they had that
Yeah.
conversation. I was like, good. Now let's get to this dragon shit.
Yes. And what we come to learn, we can just get to this part now from
Hmm.
their translations, which was a big thing. I audibly was like, oh my God, when we realized that like what they needed from the first six, it meant the most powerful dragons, not the riders.
Yep. Iron Rain, she thought it was, but it was Iron Flame.
Yes.
So that was a word that was translated. Hmm.
Yes, it was
Hmm.
mistranslated and I
Hmm.
was shook. But then they also learned that by putting up the wards, that the Griffin flyers will not, the Griffin riders will not be able to use their powers if it's warded because it only allows dragon magic.
Hmm.
So that's something like people like Kat won't be able to use their powers.
Yep.
And that's like a sacrifice that they're
Huge thing.
also conflicted about.
Hmm. Yep. And then we also, the other word that they were able to translate in the book, instead of blood, I want to say breath.
Yes. Uh huh.
Hmm. So we're kind of learning that the dragons are more involved than we thought.
Yeah.
Riders are important, but dragons, I think, are kind of ultimately most important for this.
Yes.
Hmm.
And it's like this whole theme too, where like it's almost like the dragons are scoffing at the people because they're like, you guys make all these rules and you do this and do that, but ultimately, like, it's up to the dragon. Like, this has been something that's rooted since Fourth Wing that we've been learning. Like, even if the people in charge try to say something to the rider, ultimately, if the dragon's not going to go along with it, it's not going to happen. We learned the same thing with Varys trying to punish Violet for things with Andarna. Like, it's just, you cannot, they're so far beyond.
Hmm.
And the riders are just privileged to have this bond with the dragons, but ultimately I think like they're the most powerful beings.
Hmm.
And it makes sense. Like, it's definitely a full circle moment.
Yep. What about when Kat is talking to Violet, asking her that if she bonded two dragons, does that mean she gets two signets? So that to me is like foreshadowing.
Yes.
I
What do you think?
think I see. This is where I'm torn. Now that we know they need, actually, this is me assuming. So with the new book that they have, I feel like Adarna is going to be involved in creating this. So I don't know if like the dragons being involved, if they like die or like something must drastically happen. But I
Like, they
think
sacrifice something.
they sacrifice something, and I'm wondering if Adarna will be the key to everything. Like
Ugh,
she's like maybe the last dragon they need or something.
ugh.
But I feel like Adarna is going to be super important in this, and she will ultimately spawn one. I think she'll lose one. I think it's inevitable. I
Yeah,
don't think
you've
she'll
been
ever.
saying this, and this
Yeah,
breaks
this.
my heart. There's
Yeah.
something coming with Andarna because she's so powerful. She's like also becoming this dragon that we've never experienced. Like if she has those glowing tints popping up, like she's obviously not traditional. She's growing at a different pace.
She's
She's
definitely a
taking
different breed
a
too.
lot
Hmm.
longer. Like there's something there. And either that will translate to giving something to Violet, or it will help be for the greater good, like you're saying.
Or I mean, I would feel better if Tarn and what's his girlfriend's name?
Sigil.
Sigil, if I think they're the same breed though, so I don't think it could be both of them. But if they were two of the dragons out of the six that they need,
Hmm.
maybe she'll have a Darna, and then those two, and then Zayden will be fine, maybe because what she's
Girl,
doing.
stop
One of,
killing off my dragons.
and but you know it's inevitable. A dragon's gonna have to die. She has two, and I think it's for a reason. I think either Darna's gonna go, but I don't know. I don't want her to go.
I know. I can't do this. I will die. I think you may be right. And then I
I
also,
hope I'm not. I hope Rebecca gives us some twisted, crazy good.
maybe Andarna can do something
Hmm.
in the end that's going to help like time or something like that when they're
Hmm.
coming under attack. And maybe that will lead to like her demise because she's like pausing everything for everyone to get ready, like some big final act, which
Hmm.
is possible and also will destroy me.
I
So
know,
there's
Rebecca,
that.
you've made me cry a lot already.
She, yeah. So there was also a part where she was involved when they were like under attack, like going through the
Hmm.
tunnels.
Yep, we find out Salone's
Signet.
signet. Hmm.
So she's a siphon, and Sloane is able to take power from others,
She's gonna come in
essentially.
handy. I think she's gonna be a rock star too
She's a
somewhere.
bad bitch,
Hmm.
little
Hmm.
Sloane.
Hmm.
So that was really interesting. And then we find out something similar, another person with a signet that we didn't think about because he already has one,
Hmm.
Zayden.
Zay Daddy.
This was a major thing. So basically, this spawned too. It was interesting how it came about because for Zayden, it was so left field because Zayden is saying to, again, with the conversations about the trust and the this and the that, and he's like, you're so smart. Like, you haven't asked me certain questions. And he's pushing her almost in a way to ask about, it's like he wants her to just get
Hmm.
off her chest, which is why I think when they were intimate, he let her in so she could really see how he feels. But he was saying to her, like, ask me the question, like, I know you want to ask. And I
Hmm.
think what he was alluding to was, ask me like about loving you, like if that only came about because of my agreement with your mother, like that's what he's expecting. And he's just like telling her, just ask it.
Yep.
And he's like, I tell you, you can ask me things and you're like avoiding this and whatever. And she's like, okay, well, since we're
I heard.
here, since we're here, I heard that if you bond a dragon that has bonded somebody in your direct bloodline, then you get a second signet. So what's yours?
Yep, and then they get interrupted.
I know, classic Rebecca Yarros.
Right,
But
I was just
then
like,
we learn that, I was shook. I was like, girl. At first, I wasn't putting it together, okay? Because when Violet learned this information, she
mhm,
was like, I pushed in the back of my mind like where it's going because I can't do this right now because like they were mid fight. And so she's like, I'm burying the thoughts and the whatever. But I
mhm,
was like, what is it? I couldn't figure it out. And then when she asked him, I was like, shit, that's what it was.
mhm,
So then eventually we learn that Zayden is an intrinsic, and it is basically a form of mind reader, which is very similar to Dane
mhm.
and is something that writers get killed for. But his is a little different in that he can tell people's like intentions right before they like
Before they
speak
happen.
or think
Mhm,
or act. So he like kind of knows like where your head is at before you make a move.
mhm. And what are you gonna do? I mean, that must come in handy with fighting. Think about
Yeah.
it.
No, for sure. Because then,
Mhm,
even when you're in negotiations or this or that, like, you know what somebody's boundary is, what, oh, they're thinking of giving in. Like, let me keep pushing or let me this, that. Like, you know what people want. you
Hmm.
know which way they're going to move and attack. So that's insane. But also for Violet, she's sitting here like, were you doing this with me? Like when when we
And
were.
it annoys me how much this is when like Rebecca was annoying me because I'm like, here we go again. Here we go with her not trusting him again. Like, oh, it's not like I feel like it's not that serious. And his intentions are so pure with her. Like, he's not Dane. He wouldn't like use like it was just
She got a lot of trust issues, this Violet.
mm, mommy issues. No.
Oh my goodness. Speaking of mommy,
Hmm.
towards the end of the book, we come to learn that General Melgren sees, because his signet is that he's able to see things in the future, Venom attacking one of their outposts at Samara. And so now that everything's out in the open, they come to a meeting with Zayden and Violet and others from Eurasia and say, will you help us fight this? We need support. And they're sitting there kind of saying, like, that's bold, being that your brand at Navarre and, in your little home in Basquiat is to just take care of your own, like in your bubble, and you don't help others. And they said, if you agree to this, like, and help us, we won't look at you as an enemy. So it's kind of like, okay, we're offering you an alliance, like, come and help us. But they're like, but you've never been one to be there with any of us before, and left Erasure high and dry for so long.
Hmm.
I mean, we saw what was going on there back when Zayden and Violet were first sent there and killed Liam and all that. Like, and they've been doing this alone for so long that it only makes sense that they're, bitter about it and not unwilling.
What are your thoughts on that?
I completely understand that, but I think
Hmm.
at this point, so many people from Navarre have come over and been like, well, now that we know, we've made this decision to, like, come over. Like, I think that the decision, there was a point that Violet made that I relate to a lot, where she said, why are we going to let the decisions made by, like, bad leadership affect all these civilians who, like, haven't had a choice? And it's really true, because
Hmm.
even until that point, like, even Violet didn't know and wasn't out there helping, and when given the choice, she did. So
Hmm.
I think, for the greater good, I mean, that's really what she and they stand for,
Yeah.
is like helping all people. So I think I would have just wanted eventually somebody to, like, yes, you can badger them for it, but move forward on the right foot together.
Hmm. I think other people shouldn't be punished for the leadership of them. Exactly. I agree with that 100%. Like, there's still innocent people involved. So by us saying we won't help you because you guys did, like, that to me is just like tit for tat, and I don't like that. Like, there's people's lives in jeopardy, and
Yes.
they came to you asking for help. They're vulnerable,
And
obviously.
offering an alliance
So
in
show them what it's
exchange.
like to have better leadership. Show them what it's like to, save innocent people. Like, I see their frustration, like you mentioned, but I don't think it's the right thing to just, let innocent people die because you're holding grudges on other leaders.
Totally agree.
Hmm.
And then Violet is almost waiting for Zayden to speak up, almost like, and protest that response and kind of say, like, okay, like, let's see, we will, let's negotiate this. We'll be there with you. As she's waiting, she's looking across at her mother during negotiations, and she's watching her sort of change. And her mom goes pale, and she's like losing her breath, and she's weak at the knees. And it's this big, drawn out moment. And she's like, I am ready to, like, turn around to see what she's looking at, but I already know. And
Hmm.
then once she says that, Brennan speaks.
Yep. And it's not what
Woo!
she thought he would say for sure. That's
No, he came in guns blazing, and
hmm.
he was like, why would we be there for you when you're willing to, like, give up your own children's lives to hide the truth?
Which surprises me because I feel like Zayden, I can see being that way, being like, fuck you, no way. Not after everything you did to me, my family, everyone. But what she did for her children, I feel like she was trying to protect them. She had Zayden protect Violet while she was there. She cares. So I was super, super surprised. But I don't know. I feel like Brennan would know his mother most, and maybe, I don't know. I
I
was
think
surprised.
that for so long, everyone has thought that their mother was someone who she isn't. Like, she clearly is a lot more understanding and on their side. She's the one who like kind of gave everyone, like, was public once the venom carcasses showed up. She's like, guys, this is what's happening. Make your choice. Like,
Yeah.
she at the end of this is, helping facilitate things, which we'll get to in a second, like for her kids. I think like he's probably bitter and he doesn't know this, because we even thought, like, to Violet, everything is by the book for her mother, and she always thought like her mom would never understand, or thought she was rebelling, and really under all this, like, she has just kind of kept her mouth shut to like keep everybody okay that she cared about. And I think Brennan doesn't really know his mother like that yet, and is deeply offended because he thought like, oh, she just let me die.
Hmm. I think the mom wanted Violet and Zayden to end up together, because if you think about it, the mom really knew that his parents weren't bad. They were trying to do good. So I feel like Zayden would have, who knows, maybe Zayden would have told Violet the truth. The mom had that expectation if she asked Zayden to protect Violet. So I feel like the mom saw this happening. She wanted her daughter to know the truth. She wanted her to pick the right side. I
Yeah.
think I think now that her only kid left finally was like in it, she
Yeah.
wanted it to be for the better. So I think her mom will eventually join them and, maybe sacrifice herself for the better of good. But I
Yeah.
think, Brennan will forgive her, but I see his frustration now. I
I
think that'll
think the
change.
mom will end up giving her life in the end.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think she
Hmm.
will, and I will take back everything I've ever said about her. But
I'm like,
I,
tough love, tough love. And meanwhile,
yeah,
she's this soft ass.
yeah. There was a lot more going on behind the scenes, but definitely, like, in the moment, those decisions were really harsh.
Hmm.
And you could have been a little bit softer, but that's okay. It is what it is.
Hmm.
But it was, we also, like, in this whole thing, we learned too, like, she really truly had no idea that Brennan was alive. And she sat there, she's like, Brennan? And he, like, was sitting there like, F you. Like, he did not give anything, like, at
Yeah.
all. He did
And she
not
must be
care.
so really like, I'm sure in
He
her mind,
hates
she's like,
her.
but she's probably like, I don't give a shit if you hate me or not. I'm happy you're alive, happy all
Yeah.
three of my kids are okay. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's a bittersweet moment for her, even though she's like, of course, like gutted, but she's also
Yeah.
like, oh, the only person I really lost was my husband. And let's fight
Even
this fight.
Violet was like, I almost wanted to, like, reach out for her. Like, I was like, ugh.
Because
Because,
she understands. She was
yeah,
there. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
cannot. That
I'm
was,
surprised she didn't handle it like Mira and smack the shit out of him.
I know, that's so funny. That will always be iconic,
I
and I
love Mira.
love it. So I can't even believe I'm saying this, but we're finishing the book next week, girl. So we will know everything, and hopefully some of our predictions came true. I'm really especially interested about what happens with Interna.
No, I don't want to know. I know it's not going to
Oh,
be what we expect.
okay,
And I'm going to hate
stop.
it.
I say the mom will die and not Interna, but let's see what happens. So next week, we're reading chapters 58 to 66 in Iron Flame. Amanda, will you please plug in our socials, girly?
Yes, if you are watching, please make sure to subscribe. We would highly appreciate it. We're also on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Book Please Podcast, Twitter/X at Book Please Pod, and also on Facebook, Book Please Podcast. Please make sure to follow, send your love, and we will try and be more active on TikTok as well and go live more so you guys can catch us there. Thanks, guys.
Bye.